Hello everyone, my name is Rajat and today I am here presenting my project, and it talks about the data set talks about motor vehicle crashes in New York City. And this slide talks about the data source details, the data ingestion, how it was done, data pre-processing, how we did that, the analysis that we did, the visualizations that we created. The data set initially it was provided by New York City Police Department. The data talks about the motor vehicle collisions that have happened in New York City over past 5 years. And then the data set is comprised of 1.7 million rows and it has 29 columns. We tried to define some goals on which we would work and take our project ahead. One of the goals would be to find out who among pedestrian, cyclist or a motorist was at significantly higher risk of injury or death, since we know that the road is shared between motorist, cyclist and pedestrian. So we thought of focusing on this as one of the goals. I tried to forecast the auto accidents to see how the future looks like for New York City residents, or if we could find out any significant increase or decrease in the number of accidents. That would help New York City Police Department, Department of Transportation, along with NHTSA to prevent auto accidents. I tried finding out if there is a correlation between vehicle collision and time of the day and what is it. And then there were some recommendations that I can give to the public or to specific departments, what we could derive from the dataset to help minimize the accidents. And I tried to find if there was any risk factors for local accidents, for accidents on New York City roads. The data of 1.6 million rows was ingested on a Jupyter notebook. We were able to import all the required libraries on the notebook for processing to begin. And then after cleaning and pre-processing the data, we will be using Tableau for visualization. When data was ingested in the Jupyter notebook, I tried checking for data set, the head and tail of the data, to check if there was any inaccuracy. I tried I tracked data shape, size, dimensions, etc. I tried finding any null missing value that were in the dataset, and depending upon what my analytics goals were, I decided to drop those or even delete if they were not relevant to the analysis that I was doing on. And then I identified the driving questions, and then I started the visualization in Tableau. And here, after a verification of the data head and tail values and doing other pre-processing, I was able to find missing percentage values. And here the slide talks about like contributing factor 4, 5, 3. They have 93, 98 and 99 respectively missing percentages. So we decided to drop that and go ahead with contributing factor 1, 2. And here this slide just talks about the visualization was done by Tableau. Jupyter notebook would be used. And the first insight that we were able to derive from there was we wanted to check how the yearly crash trend looked like in the last 5 years. So we were able to visualize the same on Tableau. So we were able to see that lowest accident year was 2013, in which 203,000 accidents happened, and the highest accidents happened in 2018 year with 231,000 accidents. So we could see an upward trend in accidents in New York City. And the monthly chart was attached in the visualization. On the left side you could see there's a monthly crash chart that I attached, so we could do a deep dive analysis on monthly data if we needed, or quarterly data if we needed. So I have uploaded the same on a public gallery, so we can have a look into it later on. In the analysis, we were able to find the count of accidents in each borough, and here we could see since New York is composed of 5 boroughs: Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. Staten Island stood at the lowest, at the borough with the lowest accident rate, and Brooklyn stands at the number 1 undisputed king of accidents. Then I was able to check the number of cyclists that were injured or killed. Same I was able to do for motorists that were killed, injured persons, and even pedestrians. And I would like to say here that there were some limitations in the data set, that provided if those things or those values would have been there, we would be able to do more in-depth analysis of the data set. So but our current analysis is limited to the data set itself, so I have tried to make use of what I had, and I have presented the PVD. Moving on to the next slide, I was able to find out the leading cause of accidents. And here we could see here that I have used a word cloud, and as we know, in the word cloud, the frequency of each value is taken into account, and that's how it projects the value or the text in a size. The size is depending upon the frequency, vice versa. So what here we could say that the top 3 reasons that the accidents were happening was due to driver inattention, distraction, which was a leading cause of accidents. Failure to yield right of way was the second, and then of course tailgating. As we know, whenever we drive on the road, we can see that some person or someone is following us too closely, and as we know, it's always being talked about when we go for our initial license that we need to maintain a minimum distance of so much feet between the 2 cars, so that if we stop suddenly, so there is no chance that we'll crash into the second vehicle. So these are the basic things that we were able to find out. I personally was thinking that maybe drugs would be a reason, that someone is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and that might be the reason of that the accidents, leading cause of accidents. But I was not able to find anything like that. I mean, there were some cases, but it was not enough to say that it is the leading cause of accidents. And then I tried to find out whether the time of day has anything to do with the accident rate, and here I was able to see that over the course of 5 years, the highest accident rate or the highest accidents happen in around 4 o'clock, and then the lowest accident happened between 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., which is a night time. So we can, since I talked about some limitations in the data set, we could say that even this might imply that there are less drivers on the road, and that is the reason that less accidents are happening. Or even we simply can say that we don't have data for the vehicular movement that time, so we cannot even say why it is happening. But based on the data set, what it speaks to us, that is what I presented here. And I did try to find out the top 10 vehicle types involved in accidents. And here I could see that passenger vehicles, sedan, SUVs, taxi, 4-door sedan, pickup trucks, they were the leading cause of accidents. And surprisingly, pickup trucks comes at a later time. Since it's a bigger car and New York is known to have smaller, narrower roads, so I guess I thought maybe the frequency of accidents by those bigger vehicles would be more, but surprisingly it was a passenger vehicle. That might also attribute, since the roads are narrow, so people go for smaller cars like sedan, since it comes at number 2. And here we try to find out who is at the significantly higher risk of injury or death, whether it's a motorist, pedestrian, or cyclist. And we're able to see that motorist, the one who is more injured in an accident, is a motorist, and the one who dies in an accident is pedestrian. although cyclist is the least affected category, and it comes at the lowest in both of accidents as well as being killed. And then I did a forecasting of actual and estimate of the accidents that were happening in New York City. And here I was able to do a forecast of 3 years from 2019 to 2022. So here I was able to determine that there is a slight downward trend in the projected number of accidents. And the forecast that I did, it was in Tableau, and it is based on an ETS model. And I spoke about known limitations and future considerations that are there, and it would be nice if we could overcome these, and try to answer some more questions. As we know, though, business always talks about finding out how or why the things are happening, but I think in the real world, how is also more important, so that we can identify an area of opportunity in which we can invest or maybe try to grow that part of the business. So here, if the data set had anything related to identifying the school accident zones, we would be able to point out if there were more accidents or less number of accidents happening in school zones, because children are of course a priority for us. If there would be a column of loss, we would be able to determine that loss or money, any damage that was done, and what was the loss incurred by New York City and other government agencies like NYPD or fire department. And then maybe on the future we could collaborate with insurance companies if we had if we had some sort of data that even those guys, we could share it with them and work on that. And as we know, the future is going towards the driverless cars, so I wanted to see how we could derive some insights and create a model that could help us make driverless cars safe on the road, maybe providing them with the geostatic points, geographical points where more accidents are happening or they have happened in the past, so that people would be careful, or we can create a model in which it will self-instruct the car to be careful in that area, or maybe widen the roads there. There are many possibilities that we could have done. And here, even one more thing that we should talk about is what happens after the accident is done. Because if the accident is there are debris on the road, how does it affect the vehicular traffic? Are there more accidents happening, or there is it would help NYPD and fire department to collect their resources and in a better manner. And even putting a signboard on accident prone zones would help us to alert the motorists, to be more cautious if there are accidents happening or have been here. It would help that. And then moving on to the conclusion, and here I was able to say that the motorists and pedestrians have a higher risk of being injured in an accident. That NYPD should really focus on educating the drivers about avoiding distractions like texting, eating, applying makeup while driving, because this is what we personally have experienced or seen people doing. And then we could see that the chances of someone being killed in an accident is slim. Pedestrians are more likely to die in an accident than other categories. Then forecasting would help us to prepare better for an increase or decrease in accident. We could prevent the fatalities by taking preemptive measures. And even failure to obey basic traffic rules results in more fatalities. We should basically educate drivers, because the leading cause of accidents were, they were simple reasons, which could have been avoided by giving more education to the drivers. And here's the appendix. I have given the link to visualization. Here it takes us to public gallery. Thank you. And just to end my slide, and here I can take you, and this is a link for visualization on Tableau, so we can go through that. I have given that link, and this is what I had. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Bye.